Welcome to the Movie Guide Podcast. I am Brendan Dan of the Four Finger Discount Network, of course, joined by Guy Davis. How are you, sir?
It is always a pleasure to be here, David.
It's always a pleasure, of course, because we are joined by the Leonard Maltin. Leonard, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. Is there an A Leonard Maltin or an Leonard Maltin as well?
You are singular.
Oh, well.
You are one of one, sir.
Every time we mention you now on social media, it's capital letters, the Leonard Maltin. That's your new brand. we can't quite get you, sir. We're trying to get in contact with the Queen. Maybe get you Sir Leonard Maltin one day, but for now, you are the Leonard Maltin.
All right. So get down to the DMV and get it changed on your license.
Commander of the movie empire.
Yeah. Well, the reason we do this is because I always say, we've just launched a new podcast with Leonard Maltin, and they go, the Leonard Maltin? But thank you so much to everyone who has tuned into the show so far and followed us on social media. All of your kind words have been much appreciated, and all the 5-star reviews. If you haven't done so yet, please, if you listen to us on Spotify, chuck us 5 stars. And if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, leave us 5 stars and a few kind words as well. We do read them all, and it's much appreciated. Also, you can also support the show on Patreon for as little as $2 per month. And up on our Patreon right now, we have an exclusive episode. It is our pilot demo review that we did of the movie Jaws, which was a really good time, but it was the pilot. And I thought, you know what? I thought we'd put this up for our supporters. So patreon.com/themovieguide. You can find the link for that in the description of this podcast, and you can get access to hearing Leonard and Guy discuss Jaws. Why wouldn't you want to do it?
Which was a lot of fun to do.
It absolutely was. A little rough around the edges, but I blame myself wholly for that because I was kind of in awe of being in the presence of one of the Leonard Maltin.
Not one, the Leonard Maltin.
But no, a really good episode about a really, really good movie. And, well, we're about to talk about another really good movie today. But before we do that, the Leonard Maltin has been up to a lot of stuff, as he always is. I mean, move over James Brown. We're talking about the hardest working man in show business here. Leonard, what have you been up to? You've been visiting various festivals and various locations, watching various films, speaking to interesting people.
All of that is true. The weekend before last, my wife and I were at the Coronado Island Film Festival. Coronado Island being just south of San Diego, California. And it's a wonderful community. And they have a historic hotel there called the Hotel del Coronado, which was the location where Billy Wilder filmed a good portion of Some Like It Hot. So there's a Marilyn Monroe connection to the Del Coronado and a Billy Wilder connection. And another really good film called The Stuntman was shot all through in and about. Richard Rush, who wrote and directed it, made incredible use of the facility, of the hotel, and they gave him free rein. And the first year, 9 years ago, they had this festival. They have a lovely movie theater on the island. They're very lucky to have it, actually. It's called the Village Theater. And we had Richard Rush, the writer-director, Steve Railsback, the young leading man, and Chuck Bale, who was the stunt coordinator for the film, which is full of stunts.
Yeah.
And the three of them all were happy to dive into a nostalgia pool talking about this film that meant so much to them. And only when we finished our conversation did I realize no one had recorded it.
Oh, no.
Oh no, is right.
So this is where you need Brendan Danner here on producing the show.
Yeah.
Where's the producer when I really need him?
Never fails to press record, Brendan Dando.
So this is the 9th year of that festival, and they show good films and interesting films, and sometimes films of no reputation yet. They're just launching. And so we get to meet interesting people and very friendly people. Everybody is very pleased to be there. And if you live there, you're certainly pleased to be there. It's beautiful. And then the last few weeks of my class at USC, University of Southern California, have been pretty spectacular. I had Robert Zemeckis and a surprise guest, Tom Hanks, for their new movie Here. The following week, we had the first Los Angeles screening of Wicked.
Oh, wow.
Because its director, John M. Chu, and its cinematographer, Alice Brooks, are both USC cinema grads. And 25 years ago, they worked together on his thesis film. And that thesis film was a musical. So he has been true blue to the musical form all these years. And then last Thursday night, we had one of my favorite filmmakers of modern times, a wonderful Brazilian man named Walter Salles, who has a new film called I'm Still Here, which is based on a real family and a real set of circumstances that took place during the early 70s when Brazil was under a military dictatorship. And it's a very moving film, and it doesn't push your buttons or pull any strings. It becomes emotional because the material is so beautifully portrayed. Walter knew this family as a young boy, as a 12-year-old boy. So he's drawing on his own memories as well as a book written by the youngest son. They had 5 children, this couple. It's a film I hope gets the recognition it deserves. So yes, I have been very busy. Then Sunday, I went to the American Film Institute, and they had a special screening of a new movie that is actually open theatrically, but it'll probably have its longest life online, called Humphrey Bogart, Life Comes in Flashes. And it's a British-made documentary that views Humphrey Bogart's life and career through the prism of the 4 women who played a big role in his life. His mother, Maud Humphrey, who was a very successful illustrator, turn of the 20th century, a very domineering woman as well. And his first wife, who was an actress, Helen Menken. His second wife, also an actress, Mary Phillips. His third wife, who was the most successful actress Hollywood-wise, Mayo Metho, who you can see in a lot of old Warner Brothers movies. And they became known as the Battling Bogarts because they actually did have rather legendary battles. And I use the word advisedly. And then finally, the woman he fell in love with, who gave him the first happiness, true happiness he says he'd ever known. And that's Lauren Bacall. And Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart's son and daughter were there. I interviewed Stephen Bogart on stage, as well as the director, Catherine Ferguson. And it was a very candid conversation. And it's a very candid film, very intimate film. It uses home movies of Bogey and recollections spoken in his voice. So that's all I can remember that I've done the past few weeks.
I think you did more in the past week or so than I've done the past month.
I don't mind admitting to you guys, I'm tired.
One thing we did do, though, was watch Midnight Run, didn't we, Guy?
We absolutely did watch Midnight Run.
That was no chore.
That's an absolute pleasure. That's just a treat that you give yourself whenever you can. You know, don't deny yourself that pleasure of watching Midnight Run. So we're going to talk about it today. And as always, when we launch into one of our discussions, the primary question is why? Why are we going to talk about Midnight Run? Why did we watch Midnight Run? And, well, the simple answer to that is why not?
It is sensationally entertaining. It is just a wonderfully made movie. And it holds up 100%, Guy. I mean, I saw it when it was new and I liked it a lot then. And I got to interview the director and the star, Robert De Niro. And that was an experience. We'll park it now and get back to that later. But I liked it then and I like it just as much today. And it holds up just completely. It gave me a smile of satisfaction. Not many movies do that nowadays. This one did.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to talk about, I guess, what we were expecting going in when we first watched it, our first impression of the movie. But before, just a little capsule review of what it's all about. Midnight Run features Robert De Niro as Jack Walsh. He's an LA bounty hunter who has to get a crooked mob accountant, but he's not really crooked. He's just taken a whole lot of money from the mob when he realized that he was actually working for the mob. This is a gentleman named Jonathan Mardukas, aka the Duke, played by the late, great Charles Grodin. De Niro has to get him across country in a certain amount of time. It should be a relatively easy job, a midnight run in the parlance of the movie. Jonathan Mardukas is a lot more slippery and a lot more sly than his bounty hunter captor could ever have considered. Hilarity, action, and all manner of other stuff ensues. Sound about right?
That's absolutely right. But it is decorated or filigreed with wonderful and colorful supporting characters. All of them are played by great actors.
Oh, yeah.
Yaphet Kotto and Joe Pantoliano and Jack Kehoe and who am I?
You got John Ashton in there. You got Dennis Farina in there.
Oh, Dennis Farina, John Ashton, the late John Ashton. They're all so well cast, and they all have interesting things to do and say. In fact, there's a lot of swearing in this movie, but it's not your conventional cursing. Just like Armando Iannucci has a specialist he writes his teleplays and screenplays with, who is apparently his curse expert. I wouldn't be surprised if he took some inspiration from this movie, because they don't say I'm going to bust your head wide open. I could invent that line of dialogue. They say it much more interestingly.
No, there's a real art and a real poetry to good profanity. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting more conservative as I get a little older, but I'll be watching various shows, maybe on streaming, and it feels like you guys are just tossing in F-bombs for no reason here, or you're just throwing them in at random, willy-nilly, and it feels like it's adding nothing. It feels like kids who have first learned how to swear on the playground and are just taking it out for a test drive.
I agree.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it was Martin Scorsese or maybe Joe Pesci. They were talking about Goodfellas and how, which is another heavily sweary movie, but they were talking about how a good F-bomb or C-bomb or any bomb of any description, it's sort of like it's music. It's a grace note. It's a blues note. You've got to learn how to deploy it just right, and you've got to use it in the right context. You can't just toss it in there for no reason whatsoever. And I think Midnight Run does that better than just about any film of the last half century.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I should have scribbled down some of those lines when I was watching it, because I cannot summon any of them right this minute. But they're so good, and you know only a lowlife would say these things.
Oh yeah,
and this film is full of lowlifes.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't think Charles Grodin's character actually swears all that much in the movie. I think he maybe only.
Yeah, he may be the only character who abstains.
Yeah, he maybe does it once or twice, and it's usually dropped to very, very powerful effect. I think it's when he really wants to make a point in De Niro that he actually says it. So, yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't considered that until just now. So, Leonard, tell me about your first, well, not even your first impressions, but I guess what your expectations were going in, because this came out in the summer season of 1988, which is a pretty big year. I mean, that's the year of Die Hard, but some of the most successful movies of the 1988 summer in the US, we're talking about things like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Big, Cocktail, which proved that Tom Cruise could sell just about anything. And as a point of pride for Australians, Crocodile Dundee 2 was apparently one of the big hits of the year back in 1988. Midnight Run seemed to have been sidelined. I think it was about it wasn't necessarily a flop, but it was about the 13th biggest hit of 1988. But over the years, it seems to have really gained momentum and a reputation as just one of the great movies of that year, or one of the great movies of the late 80s. Were your expectations high or middling or?
Well, I've always admired Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
So I look forward to seeing him in anything, and that hasn't changed. And I was also a fan of Charles Grodin, who didn't have the A-list career that Mr. De Niro has enjoyed, but who was a very talented guy, who came very, very close to playing Benjamin in
The Graduate,
The
right?
Graduate.
Yeah.
In fact, his screen tests are originally on the Laserdisc. I'm dating myself, as I always do. But on the DVD, you can see him, and you can see that he would have been good. Not perhaps as good as Dustin Hoffman, who was born to play that role. But Grodin had everything going for him. And what you may not know, Guy, because I don't think it traveled across the ocean, he hosted a nightly cable TV talk show for several years on what was then called CNBC.
Okay.
And it was very freewheeling. And he was a trifle eccentric, as talk show hosts go, but he was uniquely himself. And, you know, he wrote a book, a memoir, with the wonderful title that requires explanation. The book is called It Would Be So Nice If You Weren't Here. It was because he made a film called, I think it's called 10 Rillington Place. Mm-hmm. And they shot it on location in England, and they rented a stately home. And between scenes, he sought refuge in an unused room. He was just sitting on a divan, and the owner walked through, an elderly woman of distinguished demeanor, and she looked at him and she said, "It would be so nice if you weren't here." And he took that as an emblematic mantra.
That would be the only time in the history of the world that anyone would say anything like that about Charles Grodin. That man was unique. When he passed away a few years ago, there were of course many tributes online, but he was very much if you know kind of guy. It's like,
yeah,
if you knew about Charles Grodin, you know, oh, that guy just added value to anything that he was involved in. There was a lot of clips of him on various chat shows. I think he had a really interesting and unique relationship with Johnny Carson as well, and that he would go on Carson's talk show.
Yes.
And be incredibly combative and incredibly, not combative, but almost contemptuous of Johnny Carson, which Johnny Carson was the Don.
Carson seemed to thrive on it.
Oh, yeah. It just made for incredibly entertaining television, sort of on the edge of your seat television. It's like, is he going to go too far? Is this going to end in fisticuffs, or is this going to end up in, Grodin being cancelled or something like that?
He and De Niro are a perfect couple in this movie. They are shackled to one another most of the running time with handcuffs. And people who think De Niro only started doing comedy when he made Analyze This weren't paying close attention.
No.
Because it is very much a comedic performance, only he's sort of the straight man. What do you think? It's not a typical Abbott and Costello comic and straight man combo, but his comic chops are very much in evidence.
Very much so, yeah. It's a really interesting sort of comic dynamic between the two of them because, De Niro's playing up, I guess, his sort of trademark, pressure cooker intensity and volatile explosiveness, but, doing it for comic effect. You're sort of on your edge, again, on the edge of your seat for the most part going, is he going to sort of beat this guy to death eventually for, rubbing him up the wrong way so much? Meanwhile, Grodin's just underplaying it so much, doing so much with a raised eyebrow or a side-eye glance or even a shrug. It's really, really incredible. I mean, what you were saying about De Niro is right. I mean, he wasn't really known for comic performances prior to this. I mean, he'd shown comedic talent, but in movies that weren't necessarily comedies, like Martin Scorsese's King of Comedy, which is funny but darkly and blackly and weirdly so, or even maybe early movies of like Brian De Palma, like Hi Mom and Get to Know Your Rabbit and things like that. I imagine he showed some comic style in that, but no, primarily he's known for Taxi Driver, he's known for Godfather Part 2, he's known for Raging Bull. He's not necessarily the go-to guy for a laugh-a-minute light night at the cinema. And this sort of not changed direction for him, but it showed, okay, well, we can employ him in this way as well.
What's the most important ingredient in comedy? I'm going to ask you that question.
Timing.
We didn't play it right. That's why we're not being paid millions of dollars to appear in
I thought I did that pretty well. But yeah.
You're supposed to just cut me off, Guy. Just cut me off ever so slightly. We'll do it again. What is the most important ingredient in timing?
Timing.
Ha! I got the straight line wrong.
One more time. Take 3.
Guy, what is the most single important ingredient in comedy?
Timing.
You'll fix it in post.
I think we're nailing it every time, in all honesty. But yeah, I mean, and these two guys play off each other's rhythms incredibly well.
Yes.
Which I think is, it's certainly one of the foundational stones of the movie's success and one of the reasons that people are, still watching and enjoying it to this day. That said, the studio was looking at anyone but Grodin to appear opposite De Niro. They wanted De Niro, of course, and De Niro was sort of looking to branch into comedy at this time. I think he was coming off The Untouchables, which was, a pretty intense, dramatic role. Having said that, kind of funny as well. I mean, I think when he works with De Palma, he can actually mine some humor out of the very dramatic or very intense or very violent situations that he finds himself in. But I think Universal, who were bankrolling and distributing the film, they initially wanted share. They were initially thinking, let's throw a little maybe sexual tension or romantic tension into this as well, which didn't play out. Robin Williams was apparently very keen to be a part of it and wanted to audition to appear opposite De Niro. He did that a few years later in Awakenings. Apparently, Bruce Willis was in the mix as well. I mean, I don't really see Bruce Willis as like as the Duke. I see him more as a Jack Walsh character. But Bruce was kind of in his he was still in the moonlighting phase, so comedy was still on the table for him. But Grodin was the guy.
Neither of them could have done what Charles Grodin pulls off in this movie.
Which is?
Well, that kind of understated, offhanded delivery of dialogue. It is combative with De Niro's character. He keeps trying to show that he has a conscience or impel him to listen to his conscience, which he isn't going to do. He's a bounty hunter. He's got to bring back his quarry. That's his job. It's a job that he takes seriously, and it's worth a lot of money to him, too.
Yeah, he wants that money. He just wants to open a little coffee shop and, be out of the bounty hunting business forever. But, Grodin's been the angel on his shoulder that he doesn't really want, telling him to do the right thing. Even if do the right thing might be let him go, but also do the right thing is just generally listen to the the better half of your nature or the better aspects of your nature, which is something that De Niro just doesn't want to do.
Now, we haven't really painted a full portrait of this movie because it is a very action-packed film.
It is.
And the action is very well staged. It's genuinely exciting. There's car chases. There's a helicopter pursuit. There's an episode where they both get caught in the rapids out in the western United States. It never stops. It never stops to take a breath. But it's so well done that everything meshes. Mm-hmm. And this is all under the watchful eye of a young director, Martin Brest, who only had 2 other feature films to his credit so far. But those 2 films were Going in Style, one of the real sleepers of the late 70s, a film about 3 elderly bank robbers, George Burns, Lee Strasberg, and Art Carney. And if you've never seen it, please do. And then he made Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy, which is just a sensation. And then this, Midnight Run, from a screenplay by a guy who'd been trying to sell screenplays for a long time, and he finally hit pay dirt with this. His name is George Gallo. And I got to know George a little bit. And he also tried his hand at directing. He made a film called 29th Street, which is essentially a true story, one of those stories that could only be true because no one would make it up. And it was about a fellow that he knew that I got to meet actually later on. And it has its charms and its fair share of quirks, but it's no Midnight Run.
No.
He redeemed himself later with a film that nobody saw that I liked quite a bit called Local Color. And it stars Armin Mueller-Stahl and the great Ray Liotta.
Oh, wow. I've never heard of that one.
That's worth a look. Well, that's why I bring it up, because it's worth looking up.
Wow, anything with Ray Liotta in it, I'll definitely check out. But yeah,
yep.
The curious case of Martin Brest, absolutely. I mean, it may speak volumes about the kind of child that I am, but I think I was about 10 or 11 years old when Going in Style came out in cinemas, and I said to Mum, I want to go see that. I want to go see the movie with George Burns and Art Carney and Lee Strasberg about 3 elderly bank robbers. They remade it.
They did remake it several years ago, and it's pretty good.
It's all right.
It's not the same league as the original.
No, but yeah, of course, Beverly Hills Cop, takes him into a whole new realm, and then Midnight Run. But the '90s were an interesting time for him because he's one of these guys who didn't work all that frequently. But in the '90s, he made *Scent of a Woman*, which got Al Pacino his first Oscar, and then a few years later, he made *Meet Joe Black*,
which ran for 3 hours.
Documented as running for 3 hours. Actually went for infinity. Yeah, a remake of Death Takes a Holiday.
That was a misstep, all right? Everybody's entitled to a misstep now and then, especially filmmakers. Nobody has a perfect, scorecard. But after that, in 2003, he made a film called Gigli with Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. And that killed his career.
It pretty much did. He hasn't worked since. And it's been about 20 years or so since Gigli wasn't released, it escaped. But I think that's one of those movies that its legend became more than the movie itself. I mean, when people talk about Gigli, they talk about it in hushed tones like, it's the movie that broke up, Bennifer, or it's the movie that killed Martin Brest's career. Then people watch it and go, this is a perfectly middling, I was about to say crime drama, but it's a bit of everything, like a lot of Martin Brest movies are. With some interesting sort of tangy side performances by Christopher Walken and Al Pacino. Not necessarily as terrible as everybody makes out, like a lot of these really so-called disasters are. They're mostly like, that was okay. I don't know why people are hating on it so much.
No, I don't know why it got the extreme response that it got. It's not a good movie. We can agree on that. Yeah. But to treat it like it's uranium, toxic, is overreacting, I think.
Yeah. What do you think Brest does in Midnight Run or in his best movies that makes something like Midnight Run work so well? Do you think it's that coordination of the action movies work incredibly well, the action scenes work incredibly well, but then they're also juxtaposed with these smaller, more tender, more intimate, more thoughtful moments and they all feel like part of the same thing. They're all of a piece. Do you think that's got something to do with it?
I think that's true. And when you look at his first feature film, actually I've seen one of his shorts called Hot Dogs for Gauguin. You may be able to find that online. It's an amusing short that he made when he was attending NYU. And it stars a young, then unknown Danny DeVito.
Oh, wow.
And it's good. It's fun. So I think the talent was always there. And what he did with it was he took commercial vehicles with big stars and gave it his touch, whatever that, how do we define that touch? I don't know. But he was still in his 20s when he directed those 3 senior citizens of note in Going in Style. Now, how many young men fresh out of film school could have taken that on so successfully?
Not a whole lot. And I mean, it's hard to describe the way that he handles things like that. I mean, it's not a very distinctive, auteur-driven sort of directorial touch. It's not like, wow, I'm watching a Martin Brest movie here, as opposed to, say, like a David Fincher or a Quentin Tarantino or something like that. Mm-hmm. But you just know you're in good hands. You're in sure hands. Well, for the most part, unless you're watching Geely.
Unless you're watching Meet Joe Black.
You and I might have to, butt heads on this one. I mean, yes, Meet Joe Black does indeed go forever. And at times you are indeed wishing for Joe Black to take you to the other side. By the way, Joe Black is a code name for death. But I have a theory that it goes so long because the idea is that death in the form of Brad Pitt has come for Anthony Hopkins, wants to take him to the other side. Anthony Hopkins makes a deal. It's like, well, how about I show you around and show you what life is? And they're stretching it out because they want to stay alive for as long as they possibly can. And that's why the movie goes so long. That's what I'm thinking anyway. Also, I think it's an incredibly romantic movie, and Brad Pitt has actually, I don't know, never looked more handsome.
Well, all of that may well be true, but it's still 3 hours long, and it felt it to me.
Oh,
every now and then you see a movie that's really long, and you're not aware of the length. You're not aware of the running time because you get so involved. I pray for moments like that, for experiences like that.
Yeah.
So they don't happen all that often. But I remember every minute of Meet Joe Black.
I just got checkmated by Leonard Maltin. What was it that Roger Ebert said? Like a good movie is never long enough and a bad movie is always too long. Something like that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I've seen like old B movies that are like 64 minutes long that seem like 2 hours. Mm. And I've seen 2 hour movies that seem like half that length.
Before we move on to some more Midnight Run stuff, I just want to say I watched Megalopolis last night, Francis Coppola's movie, his latest movie, which goes for about 2 hours and 20 minutes or so. That felt like it went very, very quickly. I mean, again, you're in the hands of a talented filmmaker, a talented storyteller, when something that's big and sprawling and epic nonetheless feels like it's breezing by.
That's still on my to-do list.
Not a bad movie.
Over the holidays, I'm going to get to that.
A grand folly is how I might describe it.
Another facet of Midnight Run that I want to mention is that it's a pay telephone movie. There are movies from the 80s and 90s that I qualify as payphone movies because if pay telephones didn't exist in New York City, they couldn't advance the plot.
Yep.
They'd be caught dead because there'd be nowhere to go. But this movie depends on Robert De Niro having the right amount of change in his pocket at crucial moments, repeatedly. And it's not just in New York. It's as he's traveling cross country.
Something we say on the movie, guys, we're kind of jumping ahead to our closing segment. We say timely or timeless. Between the amount of calls made from phone booths and the amount of cigarettes smoked, I'd say this is the most 1988 movie there is.
Well, it's certainly of its time, and we've given ample evidence of that. The way it plays for me, it's just having revisited it in 2024, it's as good and as entertaining as it ever was.
Yeah.
So that makes it timeless.
Absolutely. And for me, I mean, you mentioned the action scene, that they are incredibly well choreographed, well staged, well paced, everything like that. I think the reason that I would keep coming back to this movie, and the things that people continue to talk about or sing the praises of when it comes to this movie are the smaller moments. I mean, there's a terrific scene where De Niro visits his ex-wife because he and Grodin are in a jam. They're fresh out of money. Everyone's on their trail. He reunites with his daughter, who he hasn't seen in years. It's an incredibly just sweet moment, given a beautiful cherry on top when he's about to leave. she runs outside and offers her babysitting money to help them get away, which, he said, I can't take it. And he's clearly so touched by the gesture. So is Grodin. But it's things like that, quirky little details like there's a scene where Grodin is posing as a Fed to, I guess, con these poor store owners out of money, and he's pulling technical terms out of his butt. They're starving; they haven't eaten in days, and this diner waitress is talking about chorizo and eggs, which has become my go-to dish because of Midnight Run. I hadn't heard of chorizo before watching Midnight Run back in the late 80s, and that's all I want to eat now. It sounds so fantastic. All that stuff, all that texture. I think that's what really. I don't know, that's what makes it, and that's what keeps it.
It also offers a lot of unexpected twists and turns. You can't really predict what's going to happen next in this movie. It does not follow formula of any kind at any time. It continually surprises.
But it's got that rock solid, I guess, foundation of two guys who don't like each other, but they are literally connected. They have to get from point A to point B. They've both got... One's got a really great reason to get there. One's got another really good reason to not. And you stay with them for close to 2 hours and you'll just absorb the whole time. I mean, I don't know. Anytime I see two actors who have got chemistry, but they're in a subpar project, and I'm not naming names, Deadpool and Wolverine, but I just want to go, give these guys a midnight run. Write them a script where they're on the road for 2 hours. They can't stand each other. They're bickering each other. They occasionally get into fistfights or gunfights or car chases. How hard can it be?
Apparently, very.
I think there have been sort of multiple Midnight Run sequels. They're apparently made direct for video.
Universal was a specialist in doing that as a studio. A film called Tremors. They made endless sequels to that. They had an animated film called The Land Before Time. They made 24 or 25 sequels to that. So today we call it IP, intellectual property. But whenever they had a hit movie, they found a way to exploit it.
The most egregious version of that I can remember is there was a military movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal, directed by Sam Mendes, called Jarhead, which was like a very straight up and quite gritty look at life in the Marines, designed to sort of be like a cousin to something like Platoon. And Universal, well, I don't think it made all that much, but it's got enough name recognition that Universal decided to make 3 or 4 Jarhead sequels that are basically just dumbass action movies without Jake Gyllenhaal, but they've got the Jarhead brand on them. I don't know. Look, it's tough times. Everybody's got to make a buck.
Yes.
But apparently they're trying to make there was a proposed remake of Midnight Run starring Regina Hall. I would say probably best known for the Scary Movie movies, but she's been in a whole bunch of stuff and is quite a well-regarded comic actor. De Niro was apparently on board to produce.
Well, good luck to both of them. Good luck to us, the audience. If they can come up with a film that is 80% as good as this one, they'll be ahead of the game.
I think what you've got to do is you've got to assemble a good cast around these people. We named some names earlier, but I mean, this is a movie that was really tough to single out an MVP, a most valuable player, because as you said, you've got John Ashton, Dennis Farina, Yaphet Kotto, Philip Baker Hall, them and Charles Grodin no longer with us. Rest in peace, all of those guys. We're losing just the great character actors every day, it seems. You got Joe Pantoliano doing what he does best, which is yelling into a phone. All these incredible characters, all who add just a terrific texture to it as well. Something else that adds texture, probably the least Danny Elfman score that Danny Elfman ever made.
Oh, yeah, it's a terrific score, but it's a real rhythm and blues score.
It is. Yeah, the first time you hear him, the first time you see De Niro go to a door, he's on a job trying to collect on some bounty, and someone shoots a shotgun through the door. But you're hearing this incredibly bluesy guitar, and then you see Danny Elfman's name come up in the credits. It's like, well, this doesn't sound anything like Beetlejuice. This doesn't sound like the Simpsons theme. Usually with Danny Elfman, you're off to the circus, and this is like.
Well, no, he's much more versatile than people give him credit for.
Well, I say this as being a Oingo Boingo fan. Yeah, Danny Elfman's the man. But this was a very unexpected score, but very much in keeping with the tone and style of the movie. What are your thoughts on the ending? I think it's one of the sweetest.
I like the ending very much because it doesn't end on a punchline. It doesn't end on a gag, as typically one would expect. But this movie isn't going to give you anything typical or anything you would expect. That's part of its charm. is that it never fails to zig when you think it's going to zag.
Yeah. We're not going to blow the ending of Midnight Run for anybody,
No.
but what do you think happens to Jack Walsh?
I thought about that for about a minute and a half, and then I dropped it.
I tend to think that as well. You have people who will ask, okay, so what happened next? What happened after the credits roll? It's like, the movie ended. That's all I want to know. I want to know what we got from A to B to C to D. I'm done. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite scene in this movie? What leaps out at you when someone says, "You know what's a good movie? Midnight Run." What's the scene that sort of leaps to mind for you?
You lied to me first.
You lied to me first.
No, you lied to me first.
They're so in sync with their banter and their
Yes.
antagonism towards one another, or more like Grodin's antagonism towards De Niro.
For 4 or maybe 4.5 trivia points, I will note that almost all of the exteriors for this movie were shot in New Zealand
That's right. Yeah.
for tax rebate purposes. You never guess it. You'd never know it. And New Zealand, of course, is such a varied country. It has every kind of topography one could want. But they were offering, I guess, a generous rebate to any film that wanted to shoot there at that time.
Indeed. So, yeah, keep your eyes peeled during Midnight Run and you'll see Frodo and Samwise on a mountain somewhere in the background. A good double feature.
I thought of one, but I didn't know if it would be overkill.
Well, try me.
48 Hours.
Oh, never overkill.
Another good odd couple type movie with Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, the same kind of combative chemistry as well. Yeah, they don't like each other. They come to respect each other. There's a quasi-friendship by the end there. Oh, and 48 Hours. What a movie, man.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
Nor have I. I mean, it could be a very 1982 movie, shall we say? Let's see how it flies in 2024. I had a couple that I think would play well with this, and they're both by filmmakers who tend to have either protagonist and antagonist that are two sides of the same coin, or a mismatched pair of buddies. So I'm thinking The Nice Guys from a few years ago, Shane Black's movie that with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. I think it's a pretty neat action comedy that has this kind of energy, this kind of vibe to it. And if you wanted to go, Shane Black, of course, is known for pairing odd couples and putting them into various hairy shenanigans. Michael Mann, on the other hand, will have good guy, bad guy. Guess what? We're more alike than you might think. And tonally, it's a bit different from Midnight Run, but I think Collateral with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx would actually play pretty well alongside Midnight Run. It'd be a nice compare and contrast kind of exercise, I think.
It wouldn't be a short double bill.
No, that's true. Although Collateral, I don't think it's that long, is it? Maybe just shy of 2 hours?
I'm not saying it's that long. No. But you'll be happy to get home and get a good night's sleep after.
Increasingly
I like
so.
Collateral.
Yeah.
Time's up.
We've already mentioned Timely or Timeless. As I said, yes, so many Marlboros smoked in this movie, so many calls made from payphones. These are things that don't really happen these days. And quite frankly, if we remade this in 2024, I wouldn't want to see Jack Walsh vaping. I think that would just be an absolute desecration of of a fine character in a fine movie. But I think it's kind of timeless, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I could pop this, well, if I had a working DVD player, which is not an assumption I could make anymore.
Oh my gosh.
I have mine, but I'm not sure how many other people have theirs. I would put this on for any mature, quote unquote, audience without a word of explanation. Oh, you have to remember it was made a long time ago. People smoked a lot then. I wouldn't have to explain anything.
No.
Just put it on and it plays.
Now, the mood and the vibe play just as well now as they did back in '88. Maybe put earbuds or earmuffs on the kids, or send them to another room. They can they can go watch some TikToks and let the grown-ups enjoy Midnight Run. A great pleasure speaking with you about Midnight Run. One of my favorite movies of the '80s. As you said, one of those ones you can just put on any time and you are guaranteed enjoyment.
Absolutely so. And it's fun to talk about.
You bet it is.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Movie Guide podcast with Maltin and Davis. Again, thank you so much for everyone who has supported the show so far, following us on social media and sending us some kind reviews on Apple Podcasts. If you listen to us on Spotify, give us 5 stars as well. You can also now subscribe to us on YouTube. It is youtube.com/The Movie Guide. You can find a link for that in the description of this podcast. You can support the show on Patreon for as little as $2 per month, where you'll find 2 things. You'll find the review of Jaws, which is now available exclusive and ad-free. You get early and ad-free access to all the shows, which means if you want to find out what these 2 fine gentlemen are reviewing on next week's show, support us on Patreon.
We might be starting to put a bit of written content on there as well. I might exercise my pen-holding muscles and, I don't know, do a little bit of reviewing, a little bit of updating about what's happening in the world of film and television. So, we'd like to make the Movie Guide a bit of a one-stop shop or go-to destination for news, views, reviews, etc., etc.
Yeah, so go to themovieguidepodcast.com for all your movie guide needs. Also, check out leonardmaltin.com. Now, Leonard Maltin, what have you got on your website this week?
Well, I have a survey of current film books, and there's some really good ones that have come out in just the past month or two. And I've been reading, and all the time I'm not watching movies, I'm reading these new books to keep abreast of what's happening in that field. There are a lot of publicists here in Hollywood who are racing toward the Oscar season with reckless abandon. Give it a little time, guys. It's still November. Let's hang back a little bit, just a little bit. But there's lots of screenings, so I'm trying to keep up with all the new movies, and I post as many reviews as I can.
Well, as we said, thank you so much again for all of your support here at The Movie Guide. Thank you, Guy.
Thank you, Dando.
And thank you to the Leonard Maltin.
Well, I will say the thank you.
And we'll catch you in the next episode of The Movie Guide.